Hi, my name is Kristi Dunn, and I'm the Registrar here at the History Museum. Welcome to this episode of Artifact Alley. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about today is this idea of new artifacts, new items in the museum collection. The History Museum is what we call an actively collecting institute, and many of you watching this actually know that. We still take in donations from stores, from individuals, and a lot of times we receive items that are 40 plus years old. Whenever we put out a call for items or we ask for something to represent a concept or something that's popular, something that we can interpret, a lot of times we will say that we will accept them up to present day. And the idea behind that is, as things are being produced, as they are still in the stores, it is actually a lot easier for us to obtain them. But that also requires us to be able to look at something new and go, what is the significance now that historians 50 years from now are going to take away from it? And we also come to the hurdle, and I think this is something that everyone goes through, the idea that if we were alive while something was being produced, it is not an artifact. It's not old enough to be in a museum. And that is simply not true. We have a collection of cell phones, Motorola, you can see all the way from the big chunky phones down to the flip phones. And we collect them modern day because you're constantly making history. And it is fascinating to be able to interpret these items in a museum exhibit from the old, talk about it, everyone, ooh, we haven't seen that before, up to look how it compares to the phone that you have in your pocket today. And I want to show two items to you today. One of them is a very popular toy, and the other one is actually, well, we'll wait till we get there. I think a lot of you are going to recognize that one. So first we're going to talk about the Sweetheart Barbie right here. In 1992, Secret Hearts Barbie came out on the market, and the History Museum at the time, the Center for History, or Northern Indiana Historical Society, actually purchased this for the collection. We do that occasionally. Most of our collection is donation-based, but every once in a while something popular will come out on the market, and we will think, this might sell very fast, and it has a story to tell. We would like to have it in the collection to tell, but it's a collector's item, so it might be 50, 60, 100 years until we actually have it as a donation. So in those cases, we will opt to purchase items. And when this doll first came out, we went and purchased it for the collection. And the interesting thing with her, which you can't tell because she is still in the box, which actually keeps dolls, a lot of you know, if you keep them in the packaging, a lot of times they will be kept safe from dust and dirt. She was one of the first color-changing dolls where her clothing changed color with different temperatures. Not the first, but it was really becoming popular in the late 80s and the early 90s. So with her dress, the reason she's called Secret Hearts is if you take an ice cube and run it along the fringe of her dress, the bottom, hearts will pop up because of the cold temperature. And then to get the hearts to go away, you press it between your hands and you warm it up. And that was a really neat gimmick at the time. Kids love seeing things that are hidden. Adults like doing that too. I still love color changing things. Cold water, hot water. You've all been there, even if you don't admit it. And so this really represented sort of a new technique in doll production and the clothing production for the dolls at the time. And it was a lot easier to purchase her for the collection at the time. And Barbie continues to tell a story. This year, Barbie is actually 63 years old. And what has made her such a popular doll is that they have adjusted the marketing techniques and the dolls themselves to popular trends at the time. And some would actually say that they have encouraged trends and been responsible for some of them at the time. If you look at Barbies, more so than almost any other doll, for the last 60 years, you see how not only clothing has changed, makeup styles have changed, the idea of what is an acceptable body size, what a woman should look like has changed. And they have continued to adjust their marketing and their production to fit new ideas or, new trends with clothing, but also, this idea of body acceptance and just loving who you are as opposed to pushing a narrative, basically a more thorough representation of humankind. And to be able to have that in the collection, eventually we're able to show all of this. And you're not just looking at how the dolls have changed up to the present, you are looking at how the narrative has changed up to the present. And being able to see what is now, what we have, what we're telling people currently, actually helps historians and everyone else, even if you don't realize it, it helps us to sort of see what's coming in the future, to anticipate what we're going to see next. So this other piece I wanted to talk about to represent, basically the evolution of older to newer items and why newer is important is the Atari. Over here we have the Atari 2600, which came out in 1977. When it came out, it was $199, which in 2021 would have been $890. Its main competitor was the Fairchild company, and Fairchild did not give in to controllers and basically making the games more dynamic like Atari did. They thought it was just a passing fad. So eventually, Atari essentially won out with their paddles, their joysticks, being able to do a lot of different movements and have extensions and additions to the machine. We also have, cartridges for games, and with it, you would have Pong. Pong is the popular one. That's the one that everyone knows. But the very first, officially licensed game for this machine was in 1980 and was actually Space Invaders. You're going back and forth and shooting down the enemy and everything. So this is really important to have in the collection, since we do talk about technology a lot and we do like to talk about modern day history. This console right here really was the beginning of consoles as we know them today. It really was the beginning of, think about the Wii with all of the extensions that you have, and it really took linear gaming and made it dynamic. And so, it's led into a lot of these other systems and a lot of other things that you can do. But nowadays, there is this huge sense of nostalgia coming back. And so what we're able to do looking at modern items is actually, I'll be right back, see how they compare from the same brand. This came out in 2017. We just accepted it into our collection. It is the Atari Flashback Portable Deluxe. So what we have with this is the Atari name, and put this up here. The Atari name and a handheld game like we're kind of accustomed to. You have battery pack back here. And what you're able to do is place for cartridge right on top here, play the traditional games. So you can go back and have that sense of nostalgia with the games that you have and even the ways to play them, but you're playing it on a modern device. So it's actually a little easier, and you can take it with you anywhere. So this is why it's important to still collect newer things. This is only 5 years old. We got it in this year, and it it makes it a lot easier than, say, 20 or 30 years from now, going, wow, we wish we could show how the Atari brand evolved. Having it now, we can show that, and then in 20 years, if Atari comes out with something new, we can show that evolution as well. Now, you'll notice that today's setup has been a little bit different than my other videos. I am in our permanent gallery, our section called Material Matters of the Voyages Gallery on the History Museum's lower level. We are open 7 days a week, so we welcome you to come and see all of our neat artifacts and also visit our other galleries while you're here. I'm happy that you could join me today and that I could let you know the importance of the newer items for the collection. You know, we're never too young, or we never have something too new to offer to a actively collecting institution. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I look forward to our next talk.